Hello and welcome to today's video. So what do the following watches all have in common, other than being Swiss made of course? The Rolex Oysterquartz, IWC's Ingenieur, Cartier's Pasha de Cartier, Audemars Piguet's Royal Oak, Patek Philippe's Nautilus, the Bulgari Octo, Omega Speedmaster, as well as many others. But before we get started, please ensure to like, share and subscribe for more great videos like this one. So what do these watches have in common? Well, if you're watch crazy like me, you'd be shouting his name at your screens. It is, of course, the world-renowned watch designer Gérald Genta. From a watch world perspective, he was a revolutionary. He carved himself an incredible career as the world's first watch designer, lending his expertise to some of the best watchmakers in the world. Well, predominantly Switzerland, as well as France, Japan and the USA. Basically, here's what the likes of Marcello Gandini, Ian Callum, Walter de Silva and Peter Stevens are to the likes of McLaren, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Bugatti and Aston Martin. He was, and very much still is, luxury watch royalty. And just like the iconic car designers and fine artists like Salvador Dali, we can, when we look closely, instantly recognise his hand. Surprisingly, of all the things, Gérald, who would be seen wearing one of his masterpieces in press images, didn't ever wear or even like watches. He, in his own words, said, "I am an artist, a painter, and I hate adhering to the constraints of time as it irritates me." How ironic. Though he did very much enjoy designing them, in some ways I completely get where he's coming from. For me, the history of a watch or watchmaker is far more interesting than the actual timepiece itself, and without the history, well, it's just another watch really. Gérald was born in Switzerland on the 1st of May 1931 to a Swiss mother and Italian father. At just 15 years of age, he started an apprenticeship at a Swiss jeweller's, and in 1951, aged 20, after earning a Swiss federal diploma in jewellery design and goldsmithing, he worked for Universal Geneva SA, where during the 1950s to 60s he designed their next line of watches, as well as working on a number of different projects. From the age of about 23, he was selling at the measly price of 15 Swiss francs each, watch designs to American, French, German, Japanese and Swiss watch manufacturers. In fact, something you possibly didn't know was that from 1953 up until the release of Audemars Piguet's Royal Oak in 1972, he designed Audemars Piguet's entire watch collection, and after that, most of Breguet's. But as there was usually a middleman or agent involved in some of the purchases of such designs, many of the luxury brands wouldn't have known of his involvement or given him any recognition in the early years anyway. It wasn't until his slightly later, sort of in the late 60s design successes, that he was able to gain that recognition, unless sworn to secrecy, of course. And before his passing on the 17th of August 2011, he was reported saying that he believed that within the space of 50 years, he must have designed at least 100,000 different watches. Now, in order to be doing something like that, you would need to be drawing at least anywhere between 10 and 20 drawings a day, with 7 or 8 of them being good enough designs to actually use. And being an artist myself, I know how big a challenge that can certainly be day in, day out. We also find it difficult to know when a piece of work is finished, and I'm likely to put that work to one side and come back to it many days, weeks, months, even years later. And if I'm designing something new, I will likely create many different examples, and from those many examples, chop and change sections, making many juxtapositions or other sort of designs from these drawings, creating many similar but vastly different designs. And it's the same but different juxtapositions used in Gérald's designs that I would like to introduce to you. So if we start way back at the beginning of his career in 1954 with one of Universal Geneva's Pole Router watches, which is a very smart design with a pretty unique dial and simple features and the microtor movement used, which is sensational. But does it remind you of anything iconic? Any other watches? Okay, what if I now add a tacky timer around the bezel? How about now? No? Okay, let me add a new crown and a couple of push buttons to the side. And as it is now a chronograph, let's change the dial to match. Now, we can clearly see where the second generation Speedmaster design may have originated from. But let's not just stop there. Let's take a look at the late 1950s Universal Geneva compacts alongside the two. Coincidence? I think not. And things become a lot more interesting and interconnected with Gérald's designs during the 1960s and 70s. Take the late Rolex 1970s quartz, aka the Texan, and Oysterquartz models. Other than Rolex only admitting to Gérald's involvement with these designs in 2006, these watches remarkably resemble many others. Let's take a look at the Texan watch. Designed in early 1970s to become the very first Rolex quartz, Rolex started work on the Texan in 1972 and released it in 1977. It took them 5 years to get the quartz movement complete and the watch then to market. Now, having stared at the watch, are there any obvious signs to you that this watch looks like any other design by Gérald? How about if I remove the bracelet? No? Okay, let's make it stainless steel. Any closer? In that case, let's replace the fluted bezel with a flat one and add a few screws. No? And finally, a dial. Yep, it's the IWC Ingenieur, but it is missing a bracelet. What if we take the bracelet from the Patek Philippe Nautilus? And now we have the completed watch. And while we're here, let's do the same thing with the Nautilus. Let's remove the bracelet, remove the crown and the angular bits at the sides, and replace all those bits with a new crown, bracelet, and a circular dial and bezel. And now, let's give it a new face. I know what you're saying, it almost resembles the Datejust Oysterquartz, and you're right, but that's because there is something missing. Can you guess what it is? It's the case shape from the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak we need to incorporate. And if we take the design of the Royal Oak, then we need to do very little to change them to the Rolex Oysterquartz on Gérald's version of the Jubilee bracelet. So, the next time you take a look at yours or a new or old watch, be it Swiss or even Japanese, from the mid-1950s to present day, take a look closely at the lugs, case shape and bracelets, as well as the octagonal or hexagonal bezels, with or without nuts or screws, and you'll start to see and notice how many watch designs Gérald has either been behind or undoubtedly influenced, and you'll realise how much of a master in design he was and very much still is and will continue to be. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more great videos like this one, then please ensure to like, share, subscribe and stay tuned.